In 1995, Snoop Dogg and Tupac Shakur were the hottest rappers in the West Coast. Their record label, Death Row Records, was embroiled in a bitter, soon-to-be violent feud with Bad Boy Records exec Sean Diddy Combs and rapper Notorious Big, whom Snoop had previously befriended. Snoop was stuck in a great dilemma. What was he to do? Sit on the fence and betray his label, or join them in attacking the rappers on the East Coast? In a war that was getting more violent as the months went by? Although Snoop had an acquaintanceship with Bad Boy Records, Tupac and Dr. Dre of Death Row were his best friends, and his loyalty lied with the West Coast. Despite this, Snoop remained reluctant to join the war and openly attack the East Coast. The rapper was determined to stay away from street violence and rap altercations by all means. But little did Snoop know that his stand on peace was about to become his ultimate undoing. Snoop's refusal to join the war led to some bad blood and malice against him from his label mates, especially Tupac, who thought Snoop was turning his back on his family. The brewing tension between Pac and Snoop seemed to simmer down at the now legendary 1995 Source Awards, where Bad Boy and Death Row went head-to-head against each other in several award categories. And when Dr. Dre won the Producer of the Year award, the New York crowd booed the producer, who was joined on stage by Snoop. In the midst of the hostility in the crowd, and despite the fact that they were in New York, Snoop still went on to address the crowd saying, "The East Coast don't got love for Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre." Tupac took this moment as Snoop declaring war against the East Coast. But in reality, Snoop was acting as a mediator.
The East Coast don't love Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Death Row. Y'all don't love us. Y'all don't love us. Well, let it be known then. We know y'all East Coast. We know we at East Coast and out.
Not long after the awards night, which almost got violent, in an interview with Angie Martinez, Snoop Dogg declared his love for Biggie and Puff Daddy, saying he would like to do a song with Bad Boy. And that interview opened up Pandora's box.
So because I said, I'm cool with Puffy and Biggie doing the interview with you. Tupac took it as if I wasn't down with him no more, as if I was side busted, as if I was scared. Death Row looked at me as like a traitor. The next day, actually I had to fly back home from New York. And normally on a private plane, it'd be Pac, his security, me, my security, Suge, and a couple of his homies. This time I go to the airport, my security walking with me. Suge like, hold up, they can't roll. They gotta catch a regular flight. So now I'm like,
that's not a good sign.
Okay. First of all, Pac ain't said to me though, from that moment on.
But everybody else has security.
Yeah. I seen it happen. I know how to get down.
I was just gonna say, that's
know,
what my mind was wondering.
I know how to get down.
Yeah.
I'm not a stranger to danger. I know what it is.
This was the nail in the coffin of Snoop and Pac's relationship. The bold declaration earned Snoop Pac's unforgivable enmity, and things almost got physical between the two rappers during their flight back to LA. It took the presence of Suge Knight on the plane to keep Pac from attacking Snoop. Snoop knew his life was in danger, and he had to find a way out soon. But would he change his mind about picking a side in the war? The war between both coasts would unfortunately only get more bitter and violent. And just 1 year later, on the 13th of September 1996, Tupac was shot after a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas, and he would die just 6 days later. This was a very sad time for Snoop. He was already ostracized by his label. He could not release music, and now he had just lost one of his closest friends. Despite everything he was going through, Snoop continued to fight for peace between both labels from both coasts, doubling down on his solidarity with Bad Boy Records. In another Angie Martinez interview just 2 months after Pac's death.
He's an artist that I listen to his music, I love his work. There's no beef, it's nothing personal. I don't hate him and I don't disrespect him and I love what he do, you know what I'm saying? And it's just me, I'm just a smooth, peaceful individual. I don't have beef with nobody right now, baby.
Speaking of Biggie,
Given that the West Coast was enraged about Pac's death, which they blamed on the members of Bad Boy Records, Snoop's interview was even more badly received, and he began receiving death threats. Despite everything he went through in 1996, the next 2 years would prove to be even more traumatic for Snoop. First, Notorious Big would be shot dead in LA in March 1997, and in the same year, Snoop would find out that Death Row Records was taking advantage of his finances. Snoop found out he was only getting paid a tiny fraction of what he was entitled to, and that the label wanted him dead.
Worry about you getting out of jail?
No worries at all. Why, you worried for me?
Yeah, kinda.
Why?
Well, you know, some people say he's not really a nice man.
Snoop was in desperate need of a miracle, or else he would go bankrupt and lose his career, and even worse, his life. But even after all these predicaments, why did Snoop remain grounded in his no-violence rule? How did the rapper who made gangster records like Doggy Style and The Chronic become someone the streets would term as soft? The answer lies in the year 1993, back when Snoop was just a skinny teenager with cornrows without a single solo album to his name. Coming from the drug-infested and gang-heavy city of Long Beach, California, Snoop was a member of the Crip gang and sold drugs before he started rapping. Unfortunately for Snoop, the gang lifestyle was still appealing to him even after fame and success. And a fatal altercation with a rival gang would end in Snoop's bodyguard McKinley Lee gunning a man to death. Once the news hit the media, Snoop Dogg became haunted by the repercussions of his gang affiliation and went from being the most sought-after rapper to the most wanted murder suspect in America in just a few weeks. The next few months were troubled times for Snoop, should he be found guilty of the first-degree murder charge. He stood face-to-face with serious jail time, and his career would go down the drain, with his debut album possibly never seeing the light of day. Despite the severity of the situation, Death Row planned to use Snoop's impending case to further enhance his thug persona in the media in a bid to promote his album before he went to trial. However, this decision did not sit well with Snoop, who had just welcomed a baby girl and didn't want his violent persona to risk his going to jail and lead to him being absent from her life.
We, the jury in above entitled action, find the defendant, Calvin Brodus, not guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree.
This was a pivotal moment in Snoop Dogg's life and career, as immediately the judge pronounced him not guilty of the charges. Snoop had an epiphany. He decided to stop rapping about guns and gang activities and steer his music towards less violent subject matters like party-nessing and having a good time. That was the moment the gangsta Snoop Dogg persona gave way for the peace-loving mediator, Uncle Snoop character. Snoop made a promise to himself to never jeopardize his life and career like that ever again.
If he would have waited another second, I might not be here doing an interview with you right now. If he would have waited another half a second, I might have a hole in my head. He might have a hole in his head. He might have a hole in his arm. You never know.
All of this culminated in making Snoop one of the most beloved rappers in America. Even though it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine for Snoop and trouble found him again, during the East Coast versus West Coast feud, Snoop stood on his no-violence policy, and it paid off for the California native when he needed a miracle the most. Snoop's saving grace during his bitter and almost fatal tussle with Death Row Records came in the form of a record contract from New Orleans record executive Master P of No Limit Records, who heard of Snoop's predicament and eventually extended a helping hand when Snoop needed one the most.
God, Master P and Priority Records, put a deal together which was, suitable for Mr. Knight.
Once all those elements were removed, it gave birth to a new beginning for Snoop.
It's official like a referee with a whistle. Snoop Dogg's a no-limit soldier.
Snoop going to No Limit, and Master P opening his arms up, letting him in, was incredible.
In March 1998, Snoop moved from LA to New Orleans to join No Limit Records, who were at the forefront of Southern hip-hop at the time. The West and East Coast had dominated hip-hop for decades, but the South was coming into its own as a major force in rap. The other two coasts didn't take the South serious, which led to Andre 3000's infamous "The South Got Something to Say" speech at the 1995 Source Awards. But one MC who befriended rappers from the South and gave props to Southern rappers was Snoop. And when he had a close call with losing his career, the South saved him. Although it was pretty ironic that his hospitality and good nature almost ruined his career and cost Snoop his life, Snoop did not desist from his mediation efforts, and in 2001, he was instrumental in finally ending the West Coast-East Coast feud. After all the drama, Snoop went on to have a long and prosperous career with many accolades under his belt, and not a single enemy in the industry. Do you think Snoop made the right decision in switching his persona and not joining the feud between the coasts? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments. If you love this video, you should check our list of the 5 most prominent rap beefs of the 90s. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching.